Honorable Mahlaule, can we please pause and let's take a point of order? Yes, Honorable Tambo.
I wanted to check. I'm not sure if I misheard the speaker. Did he say that they have morphed into the National Party during these negotiations or past negotiations? I just wanted clarity on that. If you could repeat that sentence, you were stuttering a bit.
Okay, that's not a point of order, but a point of clarity. We will then ask Honorable Mahlaule if
I was referring to the DA, Honorable Nawatambo.
If he's willing to respond to that and maybe repeat what he has said, I don't know.
Yes.
We will take it from you, Honorable Mahlaule.
I was saying which the DA has morphed into during the negotiations for a democratic South Africa.
Oh, apologies, Chair. I heard him say us, so I thought he meant the ANC. No, that's fine.
No, not the ANC.
No problem. Yeah, can we then, let's not have a back to
fight, because the Honorable Shauli spent his 13 to 15 minutes practically denouncing the government of national unity. So I want to understand, is the ANC part of the government of national unity or not? Because his distancing from the DA and its policies is leaving us confused. We must know how to hold you accountable. Are you one government or not? Confused. We must know how to hold you accountable. Are you one government or not? You're confusing us. I'm genuinely confused. Because he speaks as if they're confusing us. I'm genuinely confused. Because he speaks as if they're not running government together.
Honorable Tambo. Thank you, Honorable Mapena. We'll now go to Honorable Mahlaule.
The ANC does not agree with the DA's fundamentally flawed dogma of simply privileging markets over the government, not only because unregulated markets are inherently unstable, but also because not a single effort is shared on the DA side in asking what determines the rising cost of living in South Africa. And from its liberal wisdom, the rising cost of living in South Africa is strictly endogenously determined. In other words, inefficiencies in the rail, ports, and electricity networks, for example, increase production costs for firms, and in turn, firms pass the increased production cost on to their customers. As a result, exogenous factors, what that means increases in oil prices as well as in key inputs that produce staple food items such as wheat, maize and grain, and the raising of domestic coal prices near to the import parity are taken as exogenously given constants and are therefore unexplained in the rising cost of living. The ANC differs with the DA's finger-pointing perspective, which undermines our ability to prevent the rising cost of living from happening again because it is obsessed about blaming the ANC. Whilst the ANC acknowledges that endogenous factors may account for the rising cost of living, the party is convinced that the exogenous factors dominate endogenous factors. But this does not imply that endogenous factors are desirable or even acceptable. Undesirable and unacceptable endogenous factors include the use of buyer power by giant retailers to negotiate discounted wholesale prices, which seldom transmit to lower consumer prices. Rather, discounted wholesale prices enable giant retailers to generate super oligopoly profits by maintaining high retail prices. This analysis is missing in the DA's widely inaccurate link between the rising cost of living and endogenous factors. This omission is deliberate because most giant retailers were formed during colonialism and apartheid, and they have partially co-opted our partners. The rising cost of living is driven mainly by a cost push or important inflation, which prolongs declines in output, employment, and investment, and is responsible for the long damage to the South African economy. A good illustration of this is the Competition Commission's Essential Food Price Monitoring Report of March 2023, which reveals that food prices in South Africa remain vulnerable to exogenous factors. And for an example, South Africa imports about a third of its wheat from Ukraine and Russia, and hence the impact of the conflict between these nations has been significant increase in wholesale prices of bread and cereal, which were transmitted to retail prices. Whilst the effect of this conflict on imported inflation have subsided, lower prices of import wheat has not been transmitted into lower bread and cereal prices due to the opportunistic behavior of supermarkets with high market power in the grocery retail industry. It is sufficient to note that the DA allows this opportunistic behavior because the posture informing its policy is that unregulated markets generate optimal prices, even if optimal prices hurt poor and the working class customers. Another most telling evidence of the nature of the cost-push inflation is the rise in free-on-board and post-duty prices of frozen bone in pieces following the April 2021 and March 2022 decisions to introduce anti-dumping tariffs on frozen bone in pieces and to ban import of chicken from European Union in response to the avian flu outbreak, respectively. These decisions have resulted in poor and working class customers paying higher chicken prices in South Africa. Whilst the FOB and post-duty prices of frozen bone in pieces decline, causing higher chicken prices to collapse, this did not come without any economic cost. Most obvious is that poor and working class households have been relying on microfinance instruments from loan sharks and credit flows from commercial banks to hedge themselves against food price hikes. And the downside of this development has been the rising of both household debts and debt-income ratios. More crucially, attempts to control inflationary pressures of cost-push variety through interest rate hikes have been self-defeating as they increase debt servicing costs and reduce the purchasing power parity of poor and the working class customers. We need a rapid intervention on this issue, but it must not be a drastic and panicky intervention as often suggested by slothful parties crying wolf like the so-called progressive forces. International oil price hikes following Russia's invasion of Ukraine further complete the cost-push inflation argument advanced by the ANC. Higher oil prices have an effect primarily through increases in domestic fuel prices. Simply put, higher oil prices filter through the higher domestic fuel prices and thereby trigger food inflation as food items and other essentials must be transported from farms and factories to distribution centers and from the retail stores. A neat illustration of this is to consider the common practice by giant retailers of raising margins to correspond to the transportation cost increases. Government intervention in this case through unchanged road accident fund and general fuel levies during 2022-2023 financial year was seen as totally effective relief measures. These relief measures simply neutralize the negative effect of higher fuel prices on transportation costs, thereby countervailing food inflation and the high cost of both private and public transport. But these relief measures did not eventually tame the rising cost of living in the long run for two reasons. Firstly, the liquidation of Comair, which operated Kulula.com and British Airways, resulted in higher transportation costs, and hence relief measures were slow to adjust to changes in transportation costs. Secondly, the inverse relationship between the relief measures and the value of the rand did not exhibit the counter-cyclical behavior that the government had hoped for, since the value of the rand is crucial for domestic fuel prices. In short, if the rand is weaker relative to the US dollar, we pay more fuel as a net importer of refined petroleum products. And the value of the rand has been on a downward trend for years now. Interestingly, one of the factors that weaken the rand is deregulation of exchange rate and capital controls, which were championed by the National Party, which some of us has morphed into during the negotiations for a democratic South Africa. Lastly, electricity tariffs have been set above...
The point of order, Chairperson.
Honorable Mahlaule, can we please pause and let's take a point of order? Yes, Honorable Tambo.
I wanted to check. I'm not sure if I misheard the speaker. Did he say that they have morphed into the National Party during these negotiations or past negotiations? I just wanted clarity on that. If you could repeat that sentence, we were stuttering a bit.
Okay, that's not a point of order, but a point of clarity. We will then ask Honorable Mahlaule if
I was referring to the DA, Honorable Nawatambo.
If he's willing to respond to that and maybe repeat what he has said, I don't know.
Yes.
We will take it from you, Honorable Mahlaule.
I was saying which the DA has morphed into during the negotiations for a democratic South Africa.
Oh, apologies, Chair. I heard him say us, so I thought he meant the ANC. No, that's fine.
No, not the ANC.
No problem. Yeah, can we then let's not have a back-to-back conversation? It's all resolved now. Can we move on? Please wrap up, Honorable Mahlaule.
Chair, I was saying lastly, electricity tariffs have been set above inflation for a while now. The ANC appreciate critiques against Eskom's electricity tariff increases, but only within a framework that respects evidence. The persistent increase in electricity tariffs is partly due to the cost overruns at Medupi and Kusile, which the media used to create an automatic mistrust between the citizens and the ANC. The deeper causes of increases in electricity tariffs that the media filters are pricier diesel, which Eskom has been using to fuel its emergency plans to offset higher load shedding stages amid international oil price hikes and higher import parity prices for coal, which Eskom uses to run its coal fleet. The higher cost of diesel and coal must be recouped since below-cost electricity tariffs are not different to throwing a gasoline on fire. In the city of Cape Town, increases in electricity tariffs exert pressures on the rising cost of living, simultaneously with unaffordable water tariffs and the asset bubble in the property market, which result in inflated property rentals. The cost of inflated property rentals are not shared equally across all races in the city of Cape Town. Inflated property rentals squeeze from all sides, but benefit white people who are property owners and are therefore DA's natural. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chair. Kalipi,
Yes, Honorable Kalipi.
I just need a clarity. The time that was allocated to Honorable Mahlaule was 10 minutes.
Yes.
And it's above that. So can you clarify that?
Yes, it is 10 minutes. That is why I came in and said the time has expired.
No, he spoke more than 10 minutes. He started speaking at 11:24. And it's 11:37.
Honorable Mkalipi,
Yes,
the time is allocated and it is controlled on the side of the table. So when the time has expired, they are able to tell me, and I'm then able to say that to the honorable member on the platform to say, your time has expired. So he was allocated 10 minutes. And it is 10 minutes when they told me that now the time has expired.
No.
And that's when I unmuted and told him.
No, Chair, you must speak to your table. You must speak to your table because we are not full as we are here. As well, you can't be telling us that it's controlled that side. We are even having watches here. We are watching as well in terms of time. So that's why I'm bringing to your attention what will happen. Because it's for more than 10 minutes.
No, Honorable Mkalipi, remember the time was stopped when your member raised the point of order.
Chair, Chair, when my member raised a point of order, it was already 10:35. No, it was already 11:35. I was watching, Chair. Don't be biased. No, don't be biased, Chair.
This. It was 10 minutes.
No, but you must also not be biased because we are raising a genuine issue. It's in terms of the rules. You're even giving us a speakers list and then you are allocating time for speakers.
Exactly.
And then we are raising to you that, no, he has spoken more than 10 minutes. Please attend to it.
That's this. I have said that his time has expired because
don't be arrogant. You are bringing to your attention that the time that is allocated to him is more than 10 minutes.
Move to Honorable Gasa from the MK.
No, Chair. Chair, no point of order.
Honorable Maute.
Yeah, Honorable Kalapi is raising an issue, and we are requesting you, the Chair, to go and check it with the table staff. Because indeed, the member spoke for more than 10 minutes. So instead of you dismissing it, just say you will come back to the house. You will check with the table staff and come back to the house. That's all we are asking for.
Honorable Maudu, I have explained as well to Honorable Mkalipi that when your member raised a point of order, then the time was stopped. And then it had to continue after that point has been raised and it was resolved that it was a matter of clarity and he had clarified that. So in the midst of Honorable Mahlaule clarifying that, you can't then use his time. So it was stopped on that process only. Then it was resumed after. That is why you will find that there is an extra allocation. It was because of that duration of the time that we had used in a point of order. So I was explaining that to Honorable Mkhalip, and I am saying that I have the table with me here, and it advised me immediately when they said the time has expired. I immediately unmuted and told Honorable Mahlaule that your time has expired and we need to move to the other honorable member. So there is no way that I'm going to be biased and give others extra time or not, but the time is controlled at the table and they're able to tell me when it is time, when the time has expired. So during that process, it happened in that manner. And as I've explained to Honorable Mkhalip, that I will not be biased to anyone, but I am merely stating what transpired during the debate. So please, can we move on? And if there is another point of order, you stop your time as well as you are counting on your own, on your other side. Because if you are not, then you will see an excess time that has been added, and that is not the truth. It is because of the point of orders that was raised at that time. Please, can we then move to our next speaker, which is Honorable Kasi?
The issue is that you treat us like we're new members. We're not new members. Honorable Kalipi is the most senior and experienced member of this house. There's no way she was going to have a confusion of stopping the time when there's a point of order. We made the rules. So please.
I have said that what happened, and I am advised by the table when the time has expired. So I am asking that can we please move on with the debate. I am not going to be biased on anyone on the allocation of time. Everyone is given a time.
You are raising an issue with you as the chair. A good chair will say, let me check with the table staff, because we are saying to you, please check, we're watching. When Honorable Tambo said order, Mhlaule was already on 11:35. His time was supposed to be 10 minutes from 11:24 to 11:34. And then he continued speaking until 11:37. That is more than 1 minute, Chair. Yeah, go and check. Don't be arrogant.
No, Honorable Mkalipi, I have the table staff with me here. So they are able to advise when the time has expired. And immediately when they said so, I then pressed unmute and I continue to say, Honorable Mahlaule, your time has expired. So there is no time that I gave to Honorable Mahlaule that is extra. As I explained before, and I've made a ruling on this one, that can we move on to the next speaker, I am not going to be biased on anyone. Everyone who is given an allocation of time will get their allocated time that they are given. And please, you do not know, maybe your time that you are using that site and the table time is two different things. So you might not even know that you are moving on the same correct time. So please, can we not make an issue out of this? If the table informs me of the expired time of a member, I will do so. I will unmute and tell the member that the time is expired. I will never be biased on any other member. So can we please move to Honorable Gas? I'm not going to entertain any more hands on this matter. Yes, Honorable Tambo.
Yes, House Chairperson. I want to understand, and it's linked to my previous clarity because I'm still not clarified. Because the Honorable Shaoli spent his 13 to 15 minutes practically denouncing the government of national unity. So I want to understand, is the ANC part of the government of national unity or not? Because he's distancing from the DA and its policies. It's leaving us confused. We must know how to hold you accountable. Are you one government or not? You're confusing us, House Chair. No, House Chair, I'm genuinely confused. Because he speaks as if they are not running government together.
Honorable Tambo, I'm questioning you now. I'm not going to call you again and you not respond and keep on speaking.
No, I couldn't hear you, Tambo. But it's a fair question. We are holding government accountable.
Honorable Tambo,
yeah.
I am saying to you, you raised a point of order, of which it was a point of clarity. We moved away from that. Honorable Mahlaula's time has expired. You can't come back now when there is no speaker on the platform and say you are raising a point of order. You should have then continued on that point of order while he was on the platform. But now you are raising a point of order of which you are out of order yourself. Can we please move on? I am now going to call Honorable Gas